If you're a board game designer and you want to catch the attention of a publisher, the single most important thing that you need to be thinking about is your hook. Every game needs to have just that little something that captures people's attention, whether that's consumers, purchasers, whether it's retailers, distributors, and most importantly, publishers. That's what they're looking for. With thousands of games being released every year, your game needs to stand out because it does something that's intriguing and engaging and potentially a little bit different to what's gone before. So that's what this video is all about, how to create an intriguing, engaging hook for your game. And I've got a whole system called the Hook Generator, which uses my 5S model for creating hooks for your games. I'm Adam Porter, I'm a board game designer from Wales in the UK, and I've got a number of games that have come to the market largely because I think they have a really clever, distinctive hook. So what we're talking about here is the thing that captures the attention of another party, the one thing that stands out, that describes your game and why it's special. No game is unique, right? In 2024, there have been so many thousands and thousands of games that have gone before. I don't think anybody can confidently say that I've come up with something genuinely unique. You may well have done, but have you researched the thousands and thousands of games that have gone before just to double check? I don't think it's even possible to do that. So what we're looking for is something distinctive, something eye-catching, something that just feels a little bit different, a little bit special. I created a book called the Adam in Wales Board Game Designer Journal, and this has a model in it called the Hook Generator. And it uses a system which I'm calling the 5S system to create your hooks. So I'll show you what that looks like now. Essentially, the 5S model considers the style of your game, the setting of your game, the senses that a player might experience when playing your game, the system that makes the game work, and a little surprise in there as well. And actually, the book has a system where you can generate hooks that might just inspire you, give you a little idea of something to work on. Okay, if you're short of ideas, if you want to sit down and do a little game design exercise, maybe you just want to do a bit of brainstorming, see if you can come up with something, maybe this could help. I'm not saying that these are necessarily going to be the final ideas that you run with, but it might just get those creative juices flowing. Or you might look at this as a system for describing your game. If you're trying to create a sell sheet, for example, to show publishers, or that initial email you're going to send out to publishers, you need to capture their attention with one or two very short sentences. So what is it that you're going to say? And I think this 5S system describes games really clearly, all the key aspects that people are going to want to know. So let's start with the style of the game. And when I'm talking about style here, I'm talking about category, or how are we going to pigeonhole your game, right? What style of game is it? And these can be quite broad categories, things like it's a two-player only game, or it's a card game, it's a big box game, it's a legacy game. Okay, so quite big, broad categories. They're almost like constraints that you're setting for yourself that you're going to work within. Okay, so big, broad thing. I'm going to tell the publisher I'm creating a card game here, for example. Okay, so that's the style. It describes the features of your game. And I've got a bunch of different examples in the book here. Two-player only, affordable, asymmetric, a campaign game, a central board, a chaotic game. And this is not an exhaustive list, but it gives you some examples of the sort of things that you might want to consider. So the next aspect of the 5S system is to look at the setting. So the setting of your game, which is often called the theme, okay, but the setting describes who you are in the game. It represents when the game takes place, who the players represent, and the overarching story of the game. Now, generally, these are nouns, the nouns that describe your game. Okay, so your game is an abstract game. It's about animals, it's about art, it's about a castle, it's about a circus, and so on. Again, I've got a whole bunch of different possibilities here for you if you wanted to try and generate something to start those creative juices, get them flowing. The next section is about senses, and this is what players feel when they're playing your game? And I think this is something that I commonly get asked by publishers is, what's the experience that we're giving the players here? Why is the game fun? What are the players experiencing? What are they feeling? And so these are our emotions or their adjectives. They describe how the players feel. So perhaps they feel addicted, they feel adventurous, they feel amused, they feel attracted, challenged, clever, cunning, dexterous, emotional. Okay, so what feelings are you trying to get from your players? So next, after senses, we look at the system. Now, very commonly, when we're talking about board games, we tend to focus in on gamer jargon. So that's, mechanisms like worker placement or area control or trick taking or whatever it is. There's numerous of these bits of gamer jargon. But can we make that a bit purer? Can we strip that back and talk about what are the players actually doing? What are the verbs that relate to your game? And so perhaps what people are doing in your game is they are allocating, they're answering, they're attacking, perhaps they're bidding, perhaps they're bluffing, perhaps they're building. And when we combine these four things together, so we've got a card game, let's give it a setting, it's about a castle, a card game about a castle, so people are going to feel cunning. Cunning card game about a castle, all the C's. So maybe we want to look at some C's down here, where players collaborate. So perhaps it's a cooperative game about a castle, where players feel cunning as they cooperate. Okay, there we go. There's 4 S's, but the 5th one is important too. The 5th one is the twist, the surprise. That's our 5th S. What's the twist? How are you tilting that platform that you've built up? What are you doing that's going to make this feel new and intriguing? Okay, and that could be all manner of things. You could put a twist on the setting. Okay, it's going to take me some time to think about what a decent twist would be to a castle building game. Perhaps it's a game about destroying a castle. Perhaps it's a game about building a castle out of marshmallows. I don't know what it is. Okay, but we could have a twist on the setting. Or we could have a twist on the system. Okay, so the system we said was about collaborating, cooperating, but perhaps that switches halfway. Perhaps halfway through it becomes a competitive game, after that first half being cooperative. Okay, there would be a little twist on the system. And likewise, you could do a twist on the senses. Players feel cunning, but then they also at a certain point might feel like they're in the dark, like like information is hidden from them. Okay, and they're reaching out a little bit without knowing so much of what's going on, and so on. So you can put the twist in there relating to any of these 4 S's or even to all of them. So there's a few examples in here about generating a surprise. So this is a farming game, but it takes place in space. This is a racing movement game, but it has no randomness. This is a team-based game where team members cannot speak to each other. Or to do all of the above, this is a team-based game where team members cannot speak to each other. Players represent cunning space farmers racing to collect the best crops from different planets, and the game features grid-based movement with no randomness. If you've already created a game and you're struggling to identify that hook, I would say this is the #1 thing that I see when I'm critiquing sell sheets for other designers. They've produced lovely images and they lay it out nicely and they describe the components. They might even describe a turn of play. But at no point have they told me why this game is special. That concise sentence that tells us everything in just a few words. That's what we're really looking for. So that's one way of using this system, and you don't have to stick to the words that are in the book. These are here to give you inspiration. But another way of using it is to generate ideas. So I thought we'd have a little go at that now. And how that works is if we start with style, we roll the die, and then we're going to look at these 6 boxes and see which one we're working with. So there we go, we've rolled a 2. So section 2, we'll roll again, 1. So this is going to be a collectible game. That's the starting point, a collectible game. That's our style. So let's have a look at the setting. We've got a 4, roll again, a 5. So it's a collectible game about real estate. Okay, I'm wondering what we're collecting here. It doesn't sound like we're collecting miniatures, does it? Maybe we're collecting cards with different types of real estate, different types of building. Okay, I'm starting to get something brewing in my head here. What are the senses? What are we going to feel when we play this game? Well, we're in the second section and we're feeling dexterous. Right, this is interesting. So we're collecting cards. It's a game about real estate. We're feeling dexterous. So maybe this is a dexterity game. Maybe what we're doing with those cards is physically building. Perhaps what we're collecting is walls and furniture and roofs and different items to create the garden. Right, it's brewing. Okay, I'm getting this idea going now. What's the system? What are we actually going to do during this game? Number 5, so we're in box 5 and 2. We're going to be moving. Right. Okay, so we're physically going to be moving the pieces into position. Perhaps we're building and then rebuilding, renovating, expanding. I can imagine, yeah, we're building different buildings around the table, competitively against the other players, creating a neighborhood, shifting stuff around. Right, this is sounding quite exciting. I quite like this idea. So what's our surprise? Now, I don't have a die roll for the surprise. Okay, the surprise is something we're going to have to come up with ourselves. So perhaps the surprise is that at a certain point in the game, Godzilla type creature enters our neighborhood and they're going to destroy the weakest buildings. Or perhaps what our theme is the 3 little pigs building their various buildings, and then at some point the big bad wolf is going to come along and try and blow those houses down. Right? There's my hook. A game about the 3 little pigs, about physically building real estate, a neighborhood with cards, which we collect. Perhaps we could even buy booster packs. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'm not sure this is going to sell, but we collect cards in some way, even if it's from a draft from within our box of cards that comes with the package. And then the twist is we got to build them strong enough that when that big wolf turns up and tries to blow them down, our little building is going to be the one that survives. Right, there we go. So I've generated a hook, and that's what this book is trying to do. It's trying to give you that little spark of inspiration that you can use to create games. I mean, I'll probably not run with this idea. I actually quite like it off the top of my head, but I'm going to have to give it a little bit more thought than I've taken in this short video. But you could also use this as a system for a game that you've already created to try and hone in and work out what's special about it. And if you can't use this system to describe it and identify something special, you may have a little bit of a problem when you're trying to put it across to publishers, when you're trying to pitch it or describe it in your sell sheets. So what is the style of game? What is the setting of the game? What senses, what feelings are you trying to get the players to feel? What system is in there? What are players actually doing in the game? And finally, what's your big surprise? So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you want to pick up the Adam in Wales Board Game Designer Journal, you can do so by purchasing it on Amazon. It's a print-on-demand product, so it's available all around the world, and it's full of reflective logs and other models like the one that we've described and other similar things to help you in different aspects of board game design. You can also download a PDF copy of it from DriveThruRPG. But I've told you all about this journal many times, just trying to give you a little bit of a sneak peek into what's inside today. Please come back and see me on some other videos where we'll be talking about other aspects of board game design. And if you want to know more, perhaps look at the video linked above.